This is Jeremy Robinson from iCoach Global and my own jeremyrobinson.com. I'm here today with my friend and colleague and faculty member, Sarah Savella. Welcome, Sarah.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We thought we would launch some interviews with our iCoach faculty members to introduce them to prospective new participants in our program, as well as the larger community. And we're better to start out with Sarah than Sarah, who is, if we're talking in sports analogies, we would say she's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife. She does a lot of different things well, and has high capability in all of them.
Well, thank you for that, Jeremy. I've never been referred to as a Swiss Army knife, but I love that.
There's a football player in the 49ers named McCaffrey who does that. He runs, he catches, he does all these things. Anyway, sorry about the sports analogy, but Sarah and I were just talking, and it turns out that Sarah was in the iCoach Global program when she was quite young, and she was also involved with an organization where she was in talent management.
Yes, I led the people and organizational development group at that time.
And that was 9 years ago.
It was nine years ago, I think. Yeah, it was 2015. So I'm a 2015 graduate of the program, and we're sitting here on January 3rd of 2024.
And you were introduced to our program by the amazing Francine Smilin, who everybody loves.
Yes, I was.
So tell us about yourself and your journey. I'm sure people are eager to hear.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jeremy. Yeah, so why don't I start right in the middle, I guess, of when I went through the program, and then we can go in either direction. So I, as we mentioned, went through the program in 2015, and I was 30 at the time of the program. So probably one of the youngest people to go through the iCoach program. I think it was one of those things where I had some level of confidence that I could do it, and a whole lot of imposter syndrome. And we might get into this later, but one of the things that I love so much about the program, both as a participant and as a faculty member, is kind of struggling through the program in a way that brings you this ultimate confidence in the end to go off and become a coach.
You were in the program, you were working for a financial services company, and then...
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I had just started. So the iCoach program had started in I think February, and I had just started at this organization in January. So it was 1 month into my tenure in my new role. I was leading the people and organizational development group, so it was brand new. And I had an amazing boss who allowed me the opportunity to go through the program and spend my Fridays learning and growing, and hopefully bringing back some capability to the organization. And Jeremy, you and I were talking about my initial goals as I went through the program, and really I had two of them at the time. The first one was a short-term goal. So in my role, I really wanted to build and launch a more formalized coaching program in the organization. I was in charge of hiring external coaches, which was interesting. So I wanted to sharpen my ability to hire the right people and understand their process. And at the same time,
it's a good thing to take a coaching program just for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so helpful because I had thought I knew what coaching was, right? Sometimes I think for me personally, I went into the program saying, yeah, I've done this before. I've coached people. But little did I know that my definition of coaching was potentially not the true definition of executive coaching. So while I provided some coaching to colleagues and clients over time, I wasn't really in the framework of what it means to be an executive coach. So as someone who was responsible for hiring coaches, it was very helpful to get that learning. My secondary goal at the time, my secondary short-term goal, was to launch an internal coaching program where I would actually be coaching individuals inside the organization. And I did that. pretty soon after I graduated, I put together a framework for what internal coaching would look like. I got buy-in for it, and that's when I got my first coaching clients.
Excellent. So you had a lot of confidence having had, or maybe some confidence having had a coaching engagement through iCoach. That helped.
Yes. I think there were probably two main things that I took out of the program at the time. One was confidence in actually the being a coach and showing up in that type of role. And then so much confidence around the process of coaching, and the arc of coaching and what that looks like. So since we had a real client inside the program, I was able to take a lot of those learnings with me, and put those into practice right away.
So then you went on to.
So I was with that organization for 2 years. I thought I would have been there for a very long time, but they experienced some bumps in the road. So I ended up leaving. And this goes back to what my second goal was as part of the iCoach program, which was really to build a long-term coaching practice and make executive coaching a majority of my career focus as I went forward. At the time when I was 30, I thought that I would do that when I was, a lot older. But very quickly, about 2 years later, I said, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go out on my own and I'm going to give it 6 months and see what happens.
So 6 months has turned into?
6 months has turned into 7 years. So I'm going into my 7th year in business as an executive coach and leadership development advisor.
And you do a number of things there. You do executive coaching and you do.
So Swiss Army knifing my way through my business. I would say that my business is probably at any given time somewhere around 60 to 70% executive and leadership coaching. And I do group coaching as well. And I would say the other part of the business is on the consulting side. Since the pandemic, I happen to get a lot of requests, and there's a lot of opportunity around leadership development on the learning side. So I've been doing some larger scale leadership development programs, manager development programs, with a few other things sprinkled in between. I have a background in change and transformation, which I bring that lens to my coaching, but I also do some work in change management, and also around organizational design and development.
And in terms of your role at iCoach Global, now you have done teaching in our modules. You have done, now you're coordinating the sponsors that we have pro bono coaching engagement with. So you've had interface with organizations to collect sponsorships with those organizations. And you've also helped us in the design of the some of the modules that we use in our leaders guides for our instructors and our facilitators. The only thing you've yet to do, which I'm constantly nagging you to do, which hopefully will happen sooner rather than later, is to do supervision.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's on the roadmap for next year or beyond. But yeah, I'm going into my 3rd year this year as iCoach Global faculty, which has been a learning experience for me, just going back through the experience of the program now 7 years later, being able to help teach other coaches and watch their process and journey going through the program. As you mentioned, I've done teaching as part of the program and some design work. And one of the things that I think is so cool about iCoach is it's held true to the content that it originally developed and what made the program so unique and special, but also has evolved and changed in terms of bringing topical ideas and content to the table and just staying really fresh and up to date on what makes a great coach. So I think that combination of traditional learning and what makes a good coach, combined with some new, fresh ideas and perspectives, is what's really built great coaches coming out of the program.
One of the things I've loved about knowing you over this period of time is you get to learn and see the capabilities of a colleague such as yourself, who I really like, and seeing that you have other kinds of gifts. I noticed in the role that you had before, where you were both coaching and halftime head of people at this InsurTech, where we were both working, you were really smart about leadership stuff. And I don't know if that is I guess part of that's a learned skill, but part of it seems to be intuitive intelligence you have about people and organizations and communication.
Yeah, I mean, well, thank you for saying that. I still sometimes wonder if I'm doing things right or if I'm doing a good job, but I do think that there's this innate ability that I have to, again, understand organizations. I think that's due to my time working in consulting and
Yeah.
really being able to understand how people and leaders show up to support a company strategy. I think a lot of it is through seeing how companies have evolved and changed and how people have evolved and changed over time, especially, the past kind of 4 years where there's been so much uncertainty and so much change. So I continue to love this type of work, but I think it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard, but I think that your advantage you have is you have really good people skills. People trust you. You have really good values, so you can more quickly develop those relationships, and you're not afraid to leverage them in terms of taking the moderate risks you need to take in terms of recommendations you have. And that's also held true in terms of how you've helped us with iCoach in terms of evolving our curriculum and providing input. So
Yeah.
that's very much appreciated.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Jeremy, this year I'm taking perhaps more of a role in lining up sponsors. And for anyone who's new to iCoach or thinking about the program, sponsoring organizations are organizations where we go in and have real life pro bono clients. And I love this role because there's so much care and consideration that goes into the matching process between coaches and the clients that they get and the organizations that we choose to work with as sponsors to make it a really rich and real life experience.
Yeah, it's a 3-month gig. It really is pro bono, but we do require that the organization not voluntold somebody and that they actually be somebody who wants to have executive coaching and agrees to have the coach do a 360 intervention on them as well.
Yes. When I first started as faculty, I remember one of the behind the scenes elements that I was most impressed by was just how much focus went into this matching process and identifying sponsors. So I'm just proud to be able to take that forward.
So let us know how people can get in contact with you if they want to hire you for executive coaching or consulting or something even more innovative than one of those two things.
Sure, yeah, and while I obviously love and appreciate paying work, I'm also happy to provide any advice or inputs that I can on anyone who's starting their coaching journey as well. So you can always reach out to me if you just want to pick my brain or have any questions. But from a coaching standpoint, I primarily coach first-time executives and senior leaders that are new to their senior level roles. That's my niche. And from a consulting standpoint, again, anything in kind of the leadership development, team alignment, group coaching space is where I work and play for most of my time. So my email is sarah@thesavellagroup.com. And my website is thesavellagroup.com.
And you are very modest. You have a huge global initiative going on right now, which you certainly have undersold. So you have your fingers in many pies, and the Swiss Army knife is working pretty nicely. So I'm at iCoachGlobal.com, and it's a pleasure been talking to Sarah Savella today and working with her on a regular basis at iCoach Global. Thank you, Sarah.